Helen, do you care to explain what that last video was? Oh, I was just talking about my favorite monster. Legit. Yes, I know. It was 30 minutes. Do you have any idea how much of a pain that was to edit? No. Just 15 minutes, alright? That's the new length we're shooting for. Okay. Well, since I now have a set amount of time I gotta make these for, I'm just gonna get right to the point. Paolumu. More important than you think. And I want to just jump right on into it. So the first part is lore and behavior. What? I'm gonna get the use out of these title cards whether or not they make sense. I spent like 30 seconds making these. So, Paolumu, right? Cute fluffball bat thingy that kinda goes vicious. Its main primary diet is eggs that it finds around the Coral Highlands. In terms of biology, well, it's a flying wyvern with fur and a hard beaver-like tail that has an air sac in its neck that it uses to inflate and fly around like a balloon. Pretty self-explanatory, I think. But, wait, what was that classification? Flying wyvern? I'll get back into that when I go more over the design. Just keep that in mind for now. Other behavior, though, it is slightly territorial. It doesn't take too kindly to things like Odogaron and Legiana entering its territory, who it has turf wars with, even though it is in fact lower on the list in terms of apexes. I mean, of course, Legiana and Odogaron are also both very territorial, especially Odogaron, but the fact that they both go for Paolumu should signify that it also probably is territorial. It just didn't have very many turf wars, seeing as it was only in the Coral Highlands and there weren't many monsters in the Coral Highlands. So, next I want to talk about its design, as once again this is my forte. Paolumu is a flying wyvern, as previously stated, right? Its wings have little circle-like shapes at the ends of them, which I think are really just kind of nice. But my main thing for why Paolumu is more important than people think is it's very mammalian in nature. What I mean by that is it seems to have like a mammal. It's just built like a mammal, okay? It's just built different to all the other flying wyverns. And I think that's important, as in world, they had every option to make Paolumu whatever they wanted, right? Unlike the earlier games, where they were stuck to a certain frame, mostly being flying wyvern, there is so many other body options available for them to choose. Some early monsters that fall into this category are monsters like Diablos and Gravios / Basarios, I guess, but come on. They are very much so flying wyverns, as their wings are very obvious, yet they don't use them. Like, I am assuming if Diablos was released today, it would probably be some type of fanged wyvern / fanged beast, or even maybe a brute wyvern, as I feel like that fits it better than a flying wyvern. And Gravios just does not. If Diablos' wings were already pretty useless, then Gravios' should just be non-existent, right? What I'm trying to get at is, throughout the games, hardware limitations and creature design limitations led to a lot of monsters being put into certain categories that maybe they wouldn't be put into now. But Paolumu, who had every opportunity to be put into another category, was put specifically into a flying wyvern category. Not a fanged beast, as that category is fairly broad on the types of monsters that fit into it. Not even a bird wyvern, but a flying wyvern. And I think this flying aspect of his design is really heavily shown off as well in Monster Hunter Stories 2, where he is available as a Monstie early in the game. You do not get to use his ability until you unlock fully Ratha, because Ratha is the first monster that you have access to that flies. However, Paolumu's ability is fly, you're just not allowed to use it. They could have easily given him something like Nest Search, seeing as Paolumu eats eggs, or even Insect Search, or some other type. They gave this same treatment to all the Rathians, where they only have Nest Search, but none of them have fly. Even Gold Rathian, who is arguably, most definitely a much better flyer than Paolumu, yet they chose fly. And he doesn't even inflate his air sacs when he flies. I think the Monster Hunter team is trying to show just the importance of Paolumu's flying ability and his mammalian frame. I think this allows us to move forward with even more unique designs in the pre-existing categories, right? Let's truly stretch each category as far as we can for making monsters. Because if Paolumu, who is very much so mammalian in nature, but classified as a flying wyvern, is allowed in the game, then imagine what we can do with something like Fang Beast, where we're not stuck to just monkeys and bears. I mean, take a look at Gammoth. Gammoth's a great example of a different type of skeleton for a Fang Beast. And Paolumu, in my opinion, is a breath of fresh air compared to a lot of the other flying wyverns, as most of them end up being scaly or fit into a certain flying wyvern frame. So, I might as well talk about Paolumu's gameplay and combat abilities. As previously stated, Paolumu has its air sac, which allows it great and fantastic airtime. However, it's not the fastest in the air, so it uses its air sac to expel wind from its mouth. To put hunters, this may cause wind pressure, which I get is not a very fun mechanic, but let's be honest, not a lot of monsters really even take advantage of it. So we probably were due for some more monsters that are not Kushala, or maybe the occasional time Rathalos flies a bit too close to you. When in the air, Paolumu's an absolute psychopath, using its hardtail to try to slam into hunters and prey, and using its air maneuverability to dance around, if you will. This is such a important little detail in my mind, as Paolumu feels a lot more floaty than a lot of the other flying wyverns, right? Rathalos, Mr. King of the Skies, he is the definition of your flying wyvern, right? But the only unique thing about his flying is, I guess he can't even, flying backwards is not even unique to him. Like, Rathian flies backwards with a kickback attack, Astalos can fly backwards as well, so, but Paolumu's little flying around does feel so much more like it's floating rather than continuously having to flap its wings to maintain airtime. I can't continue on the rest of this video in good faith without mentioning Nightshade Paolumu. Nightshade Paolumu is, well, Paolumu, but now has the sleep status with its air sac. This monster is very annoying to a lot of people, but that's because the sleep status is very annoying. But there are counters to it, but your counters most of the time won't matter, as Nightshade Paolumu, well, you'll be hit by one of Nightshade Paolumu's attacks before you can take an energy drink. So you either better have sleep resistance or be really good at dodging, I guess. I think Nightshade Paolumu is actually a fantastic subspecies, along with, some other people's favorites. I mean, just its design alone is fantastic. It does the whole butterfly moth thing of looking like it has eyes that are bigger than it actually is, but instead of having it only on its wings, it also has it on its, well, sleep sac, its air sac. So when it inflates, it looks like these big, massive, colorful eyes staring at you. And that works so well with the black color palette, as it makes the eyes stand out even more so. And it also works great as a nighttime type thing, because if the monster's already falling asleep and they see the eyes and only see the eyes, they're probably going to be terrified. And even in just the intro cutscene we see of Paolumu, well, we see of Nightshade Paolumu, we see it put us to sleep, as well as all the other winged drakes that were around the map, and it doesn't attack, it just leaves. It's a defensive technique, not an offensive technique, but it can use it for offensive, and that makes it so much better. I think it was overlooked a lot in Iceborne because, one, it's just not that fun of a fight, as it's Paolumu, but with sleep now, and that sleep does aerial denial, so that just means less places to play. And it was also fought around the same time as another subspecies, Korapuki was. And a lot of people really like Korapuki, me included, as it's a fun evolution of the normal Puki fight with a lot of new moves. To be fair, Nightshade also had a lot of new moves, but once again, sleep status meant that people didn't like the fight very much. And quite honestly, I think more monsters do need to do sleep status, or give us some higher tier monsters with sleep. Not a lot of monsters primarily use sleep, but it can be done in a fun way like Somnicant can. Like, I can only really think of a couple monsters off the top of my head that use the sleep status. Those being Somnicant, as I previously just said, Great Baggy, Nightshade Paolumu. Basario sometimes has sleep gas, I guess. Same with Radobon. Otherwise, there's not a lot, and there's no high tier sleep monster either, which I think is a missed opportunity. In terms of gameplay, I also want to bring up stories too. I know I didn't bring it up in my Lugia Curse video, but that's because that video was already 30 minutes long at that point. So, Paolumu and stories too. Nothing unique. You get it in the second area of the game, and it's a considerably lower tier monster. It's neutral, which at that point in the game you have a lot of neutral monsters. However, it's also technical. And I think also at that point in the game, I can't remember, it's been a while since I've gone through the story, I think there's a lot more technical monsters in the early. So, Paolumu, I definitely though had a spot on my team. Its genes, one of which I still kind of find decently useful, is Killer Crush, which has a high crit chance. Also, Paolumu has really high recovery, so if you use it as a healer, it can work. But, then again, if you want a healer, just use Soul Seer. It has massive healing potential that a lot of people don't realize. There is no Nightshade Paolumu in Monster Hunter Stories 2, even though I think that would be great, as that would give us another sleep gene other than Great Baggy and the Nursilla sleep genes. I think, yeah, Nursilla has sleep genes, at least one of them. I'm hoping one day we get like an expansion for Stories 2, and in that expansion there's Abyssal. In my dream, that is. I'm down for any changes, and I love using just my favorite monsters in general. Alright, moving forward with Paolumu. I don't think you can do a lot with Paolumu, in all honesty. It's a low tier monster, so it can't really go too crazy in terms of moveset. And in that set moveset, it's just kind of reliant on air, and I don't think there's much we can do. I would be happy to see him still in the new game, especially that male armor set. Ooh, that hat is just on point. I think Paolumu is much more of a benchmark to future monster designs. If Flying Wyvern doesn't necessarily mean Wyvern, then just how far and how much can we push that classification? We as hunters should look at Paolumu not as just another low tier monster, but as a staple to how far we can truly go. And while it's doing that, it's also giving us some much needed diversity in terms of monster movesets. A monster who, other than Kushala, primarily focuses on wind pressure, and a monster who gives us a consistent use of Sleep Light. These are ideas that we honestly probably should be looking forward to more so in the future. And I'm for one down for it. I'm sure a lot of people are down for some more diverse monsters that are filling out more niche categories instead of Fire Monster number 30 that also causes explosions. Overall, Paolumu, I think, is just as overlooked, if not more so, than a lot of the low-tier world monsters who I'm going to be doing a series on. I'm not going to be releasing the videos back-to-back as I want to talk about other things and do other things, but I think Paolumu is a really good starting point to talk about, because monsters like Great Jagras, Kulu-Yaku, Titi-Yaku are so overlooked in terms of just their general impressiveness and how much love is put into them. But since they're low tier monsters, we don't give them a second glance. And I want to give them that second glance. I've got an outro figured out. Thank you for watching. If you want to subscribe, it's completely up to you. Don't follow my Twitter. Who follows Twitters? That's weird. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, or night. Goodbye.